Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
Oh my gosh, I'm ready for summer.
Well, it's just about here.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to have fun and games and warm weather and pool parties and all the other great stuff, vacation.
Yeah, but you're hanging up your education career and you're moving into working full-time doing counseling, so.
Well, yeah.
How much fun are you actually going to have?
Oh, well, fun is where you make it, right?
I mean, I guess.
Well, that is true, yes. We'll be leaving the education world, but heading into something new, fun, and exciting.
Yeah, I'm happy for you.
No, thanks. I am too.
It'll be fun.
Well, part of it goes back to, something that we face here all the time, and I'm looking forward to helping families work with this, and that is how to find that balance between helping a kid, helping your child, and, well, enabling your child. Because I feel like we see that a lot around here.
I mean, that probably happens everywhere.
Well, true, but I think the school environment, it's a fine line between aiding and assisting and enabling and crippling.
I suppose.
Oh, you're not sure?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know where we're headed with that.
Well, okay. So I was thinking, we see and help a lot of kids.
Yes.
And
I agree with that.
We want to, as somebody who's taught seniors for a very long time, you want to help kind of get them over the edge.
Sure.
Get them able to graduate, because a lot of times when you are 17, 18 years old, you don't understand the true value and appreciate all that getting that high school diploma can be for you.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, I worry about where's that line between helping a kid, helping them get what they want, or even if they aren't sure what that is yet, and enabling them, doing basically the work for them, and they get all the accolades, but aren't really doing the work.
Okay.
Kind of like taking steroids. All right. If you're an athlete and you take steroids, you get buff. All right. Well, did you do the work to get that buff, or did you take the shortcut? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm saying. And so I thought, well, okay, are there things that we as adults do for our students or for our children that could maybe have a negative impact on, well, their resilience, their grit, their ability to handle disappointments, setbacks, failures, shake it off, and try again? That's kind of where I was coming from.
Okay.
And so that's why I thought,
probably is,
I mean, how did you raised 3 kids?
I did.
And
not saying I was great at it.
Well, no, but have your kids fallen, basically have they had setbacks and found ways to overcome those setbacks?
I think there's always setbacks. And how, as a parent, how I deal with what those setbacks are and what the implications of it are, how the kid's going to receive any kind of correction towards, it's all very complicated.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like there were times I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. You have your child in a spot and you kind of know what they need to do, but they don't always listen to you, particularly when they're a little older.
Well, and that's kind of where I was wanting to go for today, because ran across an article from the American Psychological Association. It's talking about, it came out a while ago, 2017, but it was talking about things that we as adults do that can either improve and help a child in their resilience, or it can do just the opposite, and it can cripple them. And so I just thought it might be worth exploring a little bit to kind of, do a little bit of a deep dive maybe.
Yeah. It sounds good.
Okay. Well, the first place I'd like to start with is a definition of resilience.
Ooh.
Because we talk a lot about resilience. Here at school, we talk a lot about it, and I think a lot in society. So I got a definition here, and tell me what you think of it.
Okay.
It says resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demand.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like a good one to me. Does that come from, some government website or something?
No, it actually is part of the APA.
Okay.
It's their explanation of resilience. And
so I probably can't disagree with the psychology people on that. So, I mean, I would agree, right? Like, I feel like there's times in my life that I've had those challenging experiences.
Oh,
some of them, mental and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them just based on losing a job or, not having enough money for something or, fights with, maybe a spouse or something. I mean, it's, or fights with children.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You're having that time where a child is doing something that, they shouldn't be. And it's really hard to get it across to them, the importance of some change there. So,
well, and that's, yes. And some of that it's unavoidable. When you are dealing with other people, you're going to run into stuff like that. And as adults, we can handle a lot of that pretty well.
Yeah.
But how do we as adults know how to handle it? Well, a lot goes back to how you were raised.
Okay.
Our experiences as a child.
What if I wasn't raised very well?
Well, why?
I'm not saying I wasn't.
Were you raised in a den of wolves? I mean, I think all of that, though. All of that teaches you. You learn a lot, sometimes what to do, sometimes what not to do.
Right.
But you learn from working, from your family experiences.
Sure.
And so, because, I mean, everybody knows, well, I don't want to say everybody. How about this? It is well established through lots of research that a lot of negative things can impact a child's growth and development. All right, this can be, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, being exposed to all kinds of violence, having a parent or caregiver that is mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even parents suffering from depression, the other D word, and can really create all kinds of problems, making it potentially hard for children to develop that resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes some of the best things that we as adults can do is hug a kid.
Sure.
Tell them, hey, look, I'm sorry that you're having a rough day. And give them a hold or give them a hug and hold on to them and, help pick them up, dust them off, and encourage them to try again.
So what I think I hear you saying is don't try to solve the problem.
Well,
necessarily.
I think so. And I know that sometimes as parents, heck, even as a spouse, when my wife comes in and she's talking about things at work or this or that, my first instinct is to find a solution.
Right.
Let's solve it. And what I'm having to retrain myself in doing is not to be that knight riding in with a solution to save the day, to be the hero.
Right.
And I mean, we see that here at school. I cannot tell you the number of times I have had parents try and do everything for their child.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I teach 17, 18-year-old kids who are not really kids anymore. They're adults.
Right.
So, mom, dad, the fact that you're doing your child's homework, your child's projects, that's really kind of bad.
Yeah.
But I can also understand that a lot of times that's what parents want to do. They want to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's where we run into a lot of issues with, children who are doing the wrong thing no matter their age, right? I mean, I've gone through that with my own kids that, headed down a path that they shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
and you see it, and it creates all kinds of emotions for you, and it creates, tension, and you want to fix the problem, or you want to tell them what to do, and that doesn't generally go over very well, right? People don't usually like to be told what to do. They like to do figure things out for themselves. And oftentimes kids think they know better, right?
Sure.
So, it's tough.
Well,
It's really tough to not step in and try to fix that problem.
and
And to continue to watch what is going to be painful.
that has been a big challenge for me. Watching my stepkids do things that I'm going, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. And I would tell Sherry, step in, step up, and do something. Put an end to this. And she's going, no, I cannot. I will not. They need to learn these things for themselves.
Yeah.
And so I applaud her for having that ability to step back and watch these kids head down a path of failure. And because that's kind of what this article is talking, or parts of this article also include, is that our resiliency comes from within.
Right.
Our ability to problem solve, demonstrate self-control, emotional regulation, finding motivation from within to succeed, and of course, our ability or self-efficacy to argue for yourself. And I think back to, how did I learn to do these things? And well, yeah, a lot of it came from failure. But as parents, a lot of times what we can do is show, especially to little kids, when you are 4, 5, 8, help them out. Not solve the problem for them, but help them figure out how to solve the problem for themselves.
Well, see, now there's an idea, because I figure the earlier you start with something like this, it must be that they learn that resilience faster, and they learn to solve their own problems earlier, and then when they're teenagers or in their 20s, it might not be as big of a deal.
Well, and that is correct. I mean, we've seen that for years, dealing with kids that come from every walk of life and every background possible. You can see those that have that skill or that skill set, and those that don't.
Yeah.
So anyway, other things that one of the things that was also included in this article was the concept of relationships. The relationships that we have, not just with family, but with our friends, can help us develop some of those resiliency skills.
Okay.
But the thing that one of the people that they cited is the Dr. Fisher, a professor of psychology from the University of Oregon. And he says that good parenting is often the most significant factor in helping boost a child's resilience. And the key part of that is that relationship that the child has with their parents, especially, the primary caregiver.
So a lot of parents try to be the kid's best friend, particularly as teenagers. I mean, that's not what they're talking about, right?
I don't think so. I think that, the mindset I have had here in the classroom that I feel has helped me be more successful is that I'm going to be firm. I'm going to give them respect, but I'm going to demand respect in return.
Okay.
And in the process, we will, we'll develop potential friendship. But when they put a toe out of line, or when they try and abuse that friendship, I'm going to say, sorry, no. My job as your teacher is to be X or be Y and do what we're supposed to do, follow the rules.
Right.
And not be their best pal. I mean, but I see that a lot of parents don't always do that. And I'm not too sure what the motivating factor is. I've never asked. a parent that I see trying to be their kid's best pal. I have theories and beliefs, but maybe that's something I ought to do.
So, I mean, I see in the article that they're talking about like positive parenting.
Okay, yeah.
How do you define that? What do you think that means?
Well, I think that positive parenting is being involved. I think that positive parenting is showing up for your kids, showing up for the baseball practice, the soccer practice, not always overscheduling them for everything under the sun.
Sure.
But I think being there, showing interest. When the kid comes up to you, okay, Sherry and I were out the other week, and we were watching a family, and a little girl comes up with dandelions, and she has them as a bouquet
right.
that she picked, and she came up and she goes, Mommy, I got these flowers for you.
Oh, that's
and the
awesome.
mom acted as though that was the most special bouquet of flowers she had ever gotten. The little girl, having a big smile, runs away, goes back to the playground. And I say, way to go, Mom. I said, way to go.
Yeah.
Because
awesome.
that, to me, is positive parenting. When, again, the girl couldn't have been more than 7 years old, 6 years old. And you did something positive to boost that child.
See, and I would agree with that. I think that positive parenting has to do with kind of trying to put a positive spin on almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, not to be, have some kind of toxic positivity or something, but to support, right, through positive actions, your child. And that doesn't mean you can't say that was wrong.
Yes.
Right. You can still do that, but then support, right? I mean, I do that all the time with students.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of trying not to jump in to be the fixer or to be some kind of authoritarian, but to give the child space to make some mistakes and be there to support and pick up the pieces. I know I had to do this, with my daughter. It was tough.
Yeah.
It was a couple of tough years of supporting and, watching her do some things that weren't so great. But I've supported her through it, and she has grown immensely and come around. It just took time.
And
I think she's better off for it for the rest of her life.
Yeah. And I think that's good, because I struggle with that. I really, really do.
It's hard.
Because part of me goes, look, pull your head out of the sand.
Sure.
And stop being a squirrel. And if you do it this way, then you're going to be just fine. But your way is a disaster waiting to happen.
Right. But nobody hears those things, right? Like if you go up to somebody and you tell them you're wrong, like they're done. They're done listening to you. Mm-hmm. If you say, if you give them any kind of directive, they're probably not going to do it, especially if it's your kid, right? Because they've assumed that they know better than you, and they're gonna outsmart you somehow, and that's fine, right? But they have to learn that that's probably not the case. I mean, maybe with some parents it is the case, but if the parent is truly loving and caring and working on the positive things here that we're talking about, I think that their child will come around to that.
Well,
it will happen. And
you are right, because I have some nephews that I have been overly critical of some of the choices and decisions that they have made. And it comes from the right place in my heart, but at the same time, I would have been better served following some of these suggestions of let them fail, but then be there to help pick them up.
Yeah.
And, straighten them up and put them on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's just like education, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just like it. And we talk about it all the time in education, that there's scaffolding. There's, everything builds in a course typically on the last thing that you did and that you learned. And so, and hopefully, in education, the student is going through times where they fail at some things, because that's how you learn. Mm-hmm. And I think oftentimes we forget that in society, that you learn from failure. You don't learn from a book.
And yes,
right? You learn from failure, and you might learn something from a book after you failed, and then you read about it, and you go, "Oh, that's what that was," right? And so you make that connection, right? It's usually connected to some kind of experience.
Well, one of the other things that I found really cool about this article, and I think it's not something I didn't know, but I thought it was a good reminder that how you parent your child or parent children needs to evolve as the child grows.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really neat because, again, it's something that I think inherently you figure out and you do as a parent.
Sure.
But treat them differently and give them more opportunity to experiment. I don't know, with experiment, I guess maybe people might think, like drugs and alcohol, but not that, but just experiment with life, experiment making their own decisions, making plans, and, working out, issues with friends, and, taking care or all the challenges that, being an adolescent, being a preteen can be. And work through that.
And the earlier that you do that, the better, right? And you don't need to interfere in every relationship. Yeah, I mean, I interfered in relationships that my kids were having.
Yeah,
and sometimes it was right, and sometimes it was wrong. You just have to be very careful about when you do that.
Well,
right?
Oh, absolutely, and that's where being able to be available. Sometimes, again, just to listen.
Right.
And be able to provide, a sounding board, provide some skills that might be beneficial for their social emotional learning. Mm-hmm. And learning that, okay, you can't yell, you can't scream. We worked on this with Eric when he was a little one. He would get all upset and he would throw a temper tantrum. And I'm going, well, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put that toy in timeout.
Right.
Because that toy is misbehaving. Or sometimes he would be a little out of control. And I go, look, you're going to sit here on the couch. And when you are ready to be able to talk in a normal tone of voice, then we'll talk. But if you're going to yell or scream or throw things, then you're just going to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked out pretty good. And I think that's the kind of tools that I think we as adults, we as parents can provide our kids to have some of that social emotional learning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So important these days, right? Probably has been important forever. But we've got a tag on it now, social emotional learning or schooling. We recognize it.
And I think that you're right. It's nothing new. All right. My parents were real good. They would do the same thing.
I went and saw counselors when I was, before I was 13.
Really?
I had things that happened in my life that I needed to talk to somebody. It's a real thing.
Oh.
And, my parents probably could have just ignored it.
Yeah.
Right. But they didn't. And, that's probably a good thing.
I applaud them for making that choice.
Especially back then.
Oh, absolutely. When we're talking the 70s.
Believe me, I didn't tell anybody about it back then.
No. Yes. That is one positive that I've noticed is more and more kids, more and more adults recognizing and accepting mental health help. I will say that I'd never been to a counselor until the divorce process. Mm-hmm. And once I went to saw a therapist for the first time, or I guess in this case it was a psychiatrist, I was very grateful. And it made all the difference in surviving the divorce and all that. So being able to have, as an adult, helping your child or any kid get help, whether through something you can do or, as your parents did, finding a professional.
Yeah.
And because that is so important, because when, whatever your issue is, whatever your problem is, a lot of times if we don't know how to handle it, we run a pretty good chance of handling it wrong. may learn the wrong lesson. And so.
And that's part of the issue, right? Like, so, I mean, I have a tendency to want to fix things like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually better for my daughter to go see a counselor, right? Go talk to somebody who's not going to sit there and try to fix it because they get paid by the hour. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, a counselor's typically not going to be sitting there trying to tell them what to do or how to fix it. They probe with questions, right? I mean, that's what you do, right?
Well,
and you get them to come around to see what the issue is eventually. And so that's part of the resilience, right? That's part of learning that. And I think that, having kids, especially if you're having social emotional issues, right? Talking to somebody, else other than the parent. Well, and I don't mean like an aunt or an uncle, right? Like, I mean somebody who has some professional level of, sometimes it's maybe just a teacher. It depends on the level of the issue, but they just need to have a relationship with somebody that is kind of a mentoring thing that's not the parent.
And it helps them build that resiliency through being able to successfully overcome, again, these life experiences.
Yeah.
And as we can successfully navigate one problem, that helps us develop skills and ability to handle another setback, another, I don't want to call it failure, but another, well, we'll just call them setbacks. Yeah. All right. Things that we wanted to happen that didn't happen, whether it's a date we wanted to have happen or a job we wanted or a job we got fired from. I mean, the first time you do it or it happens to you, it hurts. But having those skills necessary that we can learn through support from friends and family or a therapist can help us develop those resiliency skills so that way we can figure out how to make it through life. Because I swear, there's somebody controlling something somewhere with a sadistic mind that's going, hey, can we screw with this person today? Hey, let's throw this curveball at them and see what happens.
It's possible, right? I mean, I guess. I mean, it's somebody sitting behind TikTok somewhere. But no, I mean, seriously, there's the kids, I recently learned this term, SVA.
Okay.
And it's about short video. I forget what the A stands for, but SVA it's a short video, like what you see in Reels or TikTok or whatever, like on social media. And, kids watch an awful lot of that. And, as parents, sometimes we've used convenience to help ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Almost it's our social emotional thing to give them something to occupy them. And so they get used to doing the screen time thing. And so oftentimes kids retreat to that rather than a physical, or a face-to-face, I should say, relationship. And I think that's we've talked about similar things before, but that's probably part of the issue. And I know that next week we're going to talk about that. So
yeah, a little bit
of detox potentially. Try to get some a handle on some things that way.
True,
and that's a resilience thing too, right? To have the kids be able to, and even adults be able to put that down. So tough.
And we kind of talked about that weeks and weeks ago with Cameron Gibson, but. No, again,
I think it's always good to touch on it because it's still a huge problem.
Oh, amen. But again, it's part of that resiliency. A lot of times we can get hooked on something. I don't want to, I guess maybe addicted is another word to say or way to say that, but it's, again, life's going to kick us square in the gut. It's not that you get knocked down, but how you pick yourself back up.
That's right.
So...
all right.
But that's all I got, again, from this fantastic article from the APA.
I think that's good. We'll talk some more next week about that.
Digital detoxing.
Detoxing.
Okay, well.
Got a little plan there.
All right. Well, then I look forward to that. So until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See you later.
Bye-bye.